And we are 3, 2, 1, action.
Welcome to the WalterFootball.com Fantasy Football Show. This is our Week 12 episode, joined once again by Michael Hofer. Michael, how are you, and how was your Week 11?
It's a pretty good week, 7-1. That's not too bad.
That's pretty good. I was personally, I was in a position where I had to play Kyle Allen in 4 out of my 6 leagues, and somehow I won 3 of those 4 matchups. So,
wow!
I'll take it. Joined also by Kim Calhoun. Kim, how are you?
Hello, Walter. I'm doing great. And I actually won the fantasy league that I played with Mike. So
yeah, congratulations, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Mike coached me, but I won. I couldn't believe it. But my DraftKings, I've got some work to do. So, but it had a lot of fun.
Yeah, DraftKings is a lot of fun. It's very intense, especially if you're near the top. Monday Night Football, I was in a position to win the main contest in the Chiefs versus Chargers game. I believe I was 105th out of 166,000 people, and then the Mike Williams 50-yard catch happened, and then I dropped to like 500 something. So
wow.
if Keenan Allen caught that pass instead of Mike Williams, I think I might have won that contest. So. That just shows how close it can be, and you need a lot of luck in addition to skill. So hopefully we have better luck this week. But this is our final week of buys. So the Chiefs, Chargers, Cardinals, and Vikings are on bye, and then after that we have a 5-week sprint, or I guess a 4-week sprint if in regular fantasy football leagues to the finish. So this is I think this is the penultimate week before the playoffs start. So. If you're not in position to make the playoffs, you have to win these final 2 games. So hopefully we can give you some pointers to help you do that, or to help you win on DraftKings if you're playing there. Michael, is there anything you wanted to lead off with?
Yeah, a couple of quarterbacks seem to have been exposed. Did Phillip Rivers just go off the cliff like Eli?
You know, I wouldn't blame Phillip Rivers for declining like he did. I know he had a very ugly game Monday night. He had 4 interceptions. He could have thrown 6 interceptions. There were 2 picks that were dropped. He also was lucky that a teammate of his recovered a fumble because he easily could have had 5 turnovers Monday night. I guess the defense that's not very good. The thing is with Phillip Rivers is that he was missing 3 of his offensive linemen. His top 2 tackles were out, and his center was out. And the center, Mike Pouncey's out for the year, but his tackles might return after the bye. In fact, I think they were pretty close to playing Monday night. So with Russell Okung, especially their left tackle, if he returns in week 13, I think the Chargers will play better, and I think Phillip Rivers will play better. But I do think it's time for the Chargers to search for a replacement for Rivers. And I think something that makes sense, this is not our NFL draft show or anything, but quickly I would say that I think drafting Tua Tagovailoa in the 2020 NFL draft makes a lot of sense for the Chargers because he probably won't be able to play in 2020, but he can sit behind Rivers for another year and learn behind Rivers, and then in 2021 he can take over for Rivers, who will probably retire by then.
Yeah, LA would be a good place for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Tennessee is another spot for him, but that's in the future. We're gonna have to worry about him in fantasy in 2021, and I like him a lot. I compare him to Russell Wilson, but that hip injury is so brutal. I hope he can recover. It'll be a shame if he suffers injury. I know I saw some doctors say that it was comparable to what Bo Jackson suffered, and Jackson had to stop playing. So hopefully Tagovailoa can recover better than Jackson did. Our medical technology is better.
So much for thinking for Tua.
Yeah. Now it's as Luke on my fantasy on my Facebook wall said. Now teams are burrowing for Burrow. So Joe Burrow, so he's likely the favorite to go first overall now.
Any word on Tom Brady when you saw Colin grab his ribs? Was that Tom Brady?
That was Drew Brees.
Yeah, Drew Brees.
He was excellent against the Buccaneers, so there were no signs that he was injured. So I guess that was much ado about nothing. I took that was a stance I went against in week 12, and it cost me. But sometimes it's going to happen. I think you need to take stands, especially on DraftKings when you're playing against 200,000 players or so. But there's another injury concern, a quarterback, where Jameis Winston suffered an ankle sprain against the Saints. So we don't know if he's going to play. Bruce Arians, the head coach, said that Winston will play if he's healthy, which is, I guess, kind of obvious to say. But we don't know if Winston's healthy, so that's something to be concerned about. And Winston has a good matchup. If he were healthy, I think you could use him this week. But considering that he has the ankle sprain and he won't be able to run around in all likelihood, and there's always a chance he could aggravate the injury, I think I would avoid Winston this week as well as his receivers.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Michael? You live in Tampa. That Tampa Atlanta game is projected to be high scoring. But are you going to? Would you advocate playing Winston this week against Atlanta?
Yeah, Jameis last year had 2 fantastic fantasy games against Atlanta. So I don't really have a problem with Jameis. Drew Brees is a tough guy. Trubisky is a real question. And let's see, Tom Brady didn't play very well either. Well, also didn't Mahomes. It was a bad week for quarterbacks.
Yeah, Mahomes, he saw Tyreek Hill get injured in the first quarter, which was pretty painful. Deshaun Watson had a terrible game. His worst game as a pro. He was my highest owned quarterback on DraftKings. So the Sunday slate, I did well Monday night and Sunday night, but the Sunday afternoon slate was pretty bad because I was all in on Watson. I thought that he could have a good game because he usually plays well against the blitz, and the Ravens blitz more than any other team in the NFL. But Watson had scored just 7 points. He could argue he should have had 14 because of the Hopkins non-pass interference call that should have been overturned. But yeah, it's many bad performances by quarterbacks, and then you had some surprises like Jeff Driscoll. He won. Yeah, he won people lots of money on DraftKings this weekend. There were some other performances. Josh Allen, I believe
Julian Edelman.
Right, exactly. The Patriots ran their own Philly special, which hurt Tom Brady.
Let's talk about the Vikings. What a positive turnaround that was at the last half, right?
It really was because in week 3 last year they were 16-point favorites against the Bills, and they lost that game outright. And it looked like that was going to happen again. They were down 20-0. They had nothing going on, and then they caught fire in the fourth quarter. So,
what happened in the locker room? I mean, somebody kicked somebody's tail. And it's like they went into this high gear. I mean, it was, I thought it was pretty cool. That was a good positive side to the games over the weekend to me. So.
Now, Walter, I'm on the show, but I should have come with a warning label. I'm from Houston, so I'm a Houston fan. So football season for us is kind of on the line this weekend. It's like kind of a do or die game. What do you look for Deshaun this weekend?
Well, Deshaun needs to hold up in pass protection. Well, his offensive line needs to hold up in pass protection because the first time Deshaun Watson played the Colts, he lost the game and he threw 2 interceptions. He didn't play well. He threw for 300 yards, so a decent fantasy performance from him. But he didn't play well overall, and I think you see a dichotomy from Watson's play when he's pressured a lot behind his poor offensive line. He does not do well. We saw him lose outright to Carolina at home, almost lose outright to Jacksonville at home. But when he has lots of time in the pocket, he can shred defenses. He's an outstanding quarterback, and he has great weapons to throw to. So it's going to be key for the Texans to protect him. And I'm not sure they can because the Colts have a very good pass rush. And the Colts seem to have Houston's number. So I would think unless the Colts are very banged up, and we don't know if T.Y. Hilton's going to play, unless the Colts are very banged up, I think Indianapolis will win this game. It really depends on the injury report.
Well, Houston did try to repair the situation with the trade with Miami, in the offseason, but then that guy got injured, so I don't know if he's back playing.
Yeah, Laramie Tunsil, he's played well, when he's been healthy. So it was. I want to say it was a good trade, but I think they gave up too many resources to get him. So I think that was a mistake. I can see why they did it though, because they're kind of all in, and Bill O'Brien was foolish enough to fire his entire personnel department, which was one of the best in the NFL. So they don't really have a good way to draft players, and I think we saw that in the first round when they panicked when Andre Dillard was no longer on the board. So I can see why they surrendered all those draft resources to get Tunsil, and he's helped a little bit, but overall their offensive line still is very poor. From left guard to right tackle, they're all bad. They're all bad blockers. So that's something they need to improve this offseason, but without draft pick, it's going to be difficult for them to do that.
Yep.
Something else that Ron isn't, I don't know if you're familiar with the fantasy football, but it's not about your favorite team or your favorite player like I thought it was when you came into this. And you'll learn that if you follow along with us. Also, Walter has a great book that I'm reading. But it's about picking your team based on the analytics of how they will play against other players. So you build your team based on players and how they do individually, and then you team up your own team. So you can have somebody from the Colts, say a running back from the Colts and a wide receiver from Houston, because you're picking those two because you think they're going to run up the points the most, right, Walter?
Yeah, usually, well, it depends where you play, but yeah, you're right. If you're playing on DraftKings, you want to correlate your quarterback with his receivers and tight ends, because if you're playing in a tournament with 200,000 people, you want to have the best positive correlation between your players possible to get the highest number of points. But if you're in a year-long league where you play against one person each week, you just want to have a safe floor for most guys. You don't necessarily need to pair your players. In fact, I think it's better not to pair your players because you want to have a good floor to score more than the other opponent. But it's a very different dynamic, Kim. I know you're playing in Michael's league, and you're also playing on DraftKings, and it's very different, right?
They're both different. It is Michael. I hate to say this, but Michael's league is more work for me. I know, and I do have to stay on top of it. But he's really a good coach for me because he really stays on top of me. DraftKings is more of a relaxed game for me. I can read your analytics and then pick my team and just forget about it, right? And I'm done. And when the game's over, I'm done. I move on. So two different things. I get excited about both of them because you can watch them add up their points as you're playing. That's exciting to me. The game itself is boring to me now, but not now anymore. But I mean, it had gotten to become very boring to me. That's why I just quit watching it years ago. But being able to watch points add up throughout the game that don't relate to it, I mean, that's exciting. That's, it's different. So. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I like DraftKings because they have a few free games that you can get in on, as well as your website is the free game. So
yeah. Now, Kimberly, you live in Vegas. How many of these individual stats and so forth are you able to actually go to a casino and plop down money on, someone having a great performance this weekend, Phillip Rivers having a bounce back game?
Well, so I don't live in Vegas, but I'm there a lot. I really am. Like, it looks like I live there. But, and I am incorporated there. My businesses are there, but I don't. And actually, I live in North Carolina, and I'm surprised that they're letting me bet on DraftKings because they have a strict bet gambling law here in North Carolina. And even if I try to bet on the horse races, they won't. They stop me. They won't let me bet on the horse races here. So.
And the Democratic primary, do they let you bet there?
No.
Well, Ron's one to talk. Ron goes to the National Open every year in Las Vegas, and we failed to mention that he is a famous grandmaster, and he coached Anatoly Karpov through 9 world championship matches. And he's also my best friend, so it's a pleasure to have you here today, Ron.
Yeah.
So actually, there's a good comparison, Walter, between analytics like Michael does for chess and for football. He's a very, I don't want to say anal, but he's detail-oriented, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. There are definitely analytics to do, and there's a lot of research, and I agree with you there. I think the one difference, though, is that when you're playing on DraftKings and you're playing against a field of 200,000 people, you need to find a way to differentiate yourself. It's not like if you were playing chess, and I would say, like, the example is if you were playing against 200,000 people at once and you needed to differentiate your moves because the other people would know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It would be like that. It's a weird thing to play against so many people.
Well, our
And
contest on Chess Stars is exactly right like that, where we get to make an investment in each move between the two grandmasters, and to win the contest, you got to pick the move that nobody else, the surprise move that nobody else has. So actually, it's quite a bit the same.
But, you know, very, very comparable also, Walter. In finance, you know, of course, they have these stock trading contests I'm sure you're well aware of, right? Well, it's the same thing. If you just pick good, solid stocks and finish up 15 to 18% of the year, hey, welcome to the, you know, middle of the pack somewhere, right?
Yep.
So you have to find some outliers, like you're saying, unexpected performers, if you really want to catapult up to the top of, you know, a couple thousand people competing, right?
exactly, yeah. You need to differentiate yourself. You need to find someone that barely anyone has. An example from last week is Jeff Driscoll, the quarterback from the Lions. I believe he was 3 or 4% owned in the big contest. So if you had him, he scored tons of points for you, and you were different than 97% of the field. And if you did elsewhere, then you had a chance to win. I know the best player, the best NFL draft. I was say DFS player, which is daily fantasy. The best NFL DFS player in the world is named Chipotle Addict, and he had Driscoll as his highest owned quarterback. So I believe he had him in 50% of his lineups compared to 3 or 4% of the field. So that just goes to show that if you do your research and you find someone great that no one else is going to have, you're going to give yourself a good chance of winning outright.
Yeah, I did tons of research replacing Stafford with him. I didn't have a choice. And he's been fantastic fantasy-wise.
Right, exactly. And, you know, the opposite of that is Kyle Allen. Now, Kyle Allen was someone I used in my year-long league. So, you know, if you're playing against one person, like I said before, it doesn't matter if you have the highest owned guy. You just want to have a good floor. He was terrible, though. But he was the highest owned quarterback on DraftKings last week, which I thought was remarkable because Kyle Allen is not that good of a quarterback. He's okay, or at least he was okay. And he just imploded last week against a defense that previously did not play very well. So I believe he was 12% owned or something like that. So that's 12% of the field. It's just their lineups just went into the dumpster. So
could you imagine him with Christian McCaffrey and Tua?
Yeah, I mean that would be interesting.
Yeah.
You know, or when Cam Newton comes back, hopefully that's next year. I think we all see now that Kyle Allen is not the franchise quarterback for the Panthers that some people thought he was.
Like Mitchell Trubisky.
Well, I mean, he's still fresh, right? I'm not going to say this is new to him. He's been doing this his whole life, but you know, he was picked to be the second in line and not to have to be the king the whole time, right? So there's a grooming period there, and I think he was thrown into the fire, but you know, he's done pretty good to be the second line, right?
What happens is they get film on him, and then defenses know what to do.
Well, he's an outstanding backup. I'll give him that. I mean, if you want to rank the top backup quarterbacks, he's way at the top. The problem is that people were saying that, the Panthers could trade Cam Newton now because they have Kyle Allen, and which is just ridiculous, I think, because first of all, we had a small sample size, and then, like Michael said, teams will get film on him. So what Kyle Allen needs to do now is he needs to evolve past what teams are doing against him. So he needs to improve his play. Something that he does very poorly is that he holds the ball way too long in the pocket, and he gets in trouble. He takes bad sacks. He loses fumbles. That's something that, you know, he needs to work on. And right now he's just processing information way too slowly. So, you know, that's something that comes with experience. And maybe I still have faith that he can improve. So I don't think he's nearly as bad as we saw last week. But I don't think he's a franchise quarterback either, like some people were saying.
And I think that it has a lot to do with the rapport with the team, right? Cam had it. He has it. I mean, it's his team, really. And it's hard to come in as a backup leader and take over some kind of command over somebody and wear the shoes like Cam has. That's his team. And that's hard to do that. And, I commend Kyle Allen for doing what he's doing and giving it the best shot. But I know that you're right. He's not there yet. I think he's got it. I think he'll be there.
Yeah, he's got some talent for sure. I mean, he's not Cam Newton though. Like Newton's upside is MVP. We've seen him win MVP before. The problem with him is that he has a low floor because of his injury. I don't know if Allen. I don't think Allen has the upside that Newton has, but he has.
Right.
He at least has a higher floor because, or at least we think he does, because he doesn't have the injury history that Newton has. So Carolina's a team I thought that could win the Super Bowl this year. I bet them at 60-1 to win the Super Bowl before the year, and I was hoping for Newton to be healthy, but he hasn't played a single game this year where he's been healthy. So it's been a shame. But at least they're in the mix. If they have a tall order to beat the Saints this week, but if they could somehow win that game, they're going to be in a great position to make the playoffs.
Well, that's a good. I mean, and we're right there at the playoff season. So yeah, this is. I guess we're building to that. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Who do you think is in line for that right now?
To win the Super Bowl or to make the playoffs? Do you mean
To make the playoffs?
Well, you look at the go division by division. I think the Cowboys are the best team in the NFC East. I would say it would be the Eagles if they were healthy, but they have so many injuries. And I think the Eagles could still make a wild card, but I would favor Dallas to win that division. NFC North, the Vikings are coming on strong, but I still have faith that Aaron Rodgers will win out. And Kirk Cousins is someone I don't have faith in the clutch. Despite what he did against Denver, I think when he has to play tough opponents down the stretch, I think he's going to struggle. So I'm not convinced the Vikings are going to make the playoffs. I think they can, but I just don't know if they will. NFC South, it looks like the Saints are going to run away with it. And based on how they played Sunday, they played much better than I thought they would. Their defense is great. They still have Drew Brees. Alvin Kamara is healthy again. The Saints are one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. NFC West, the 49ers, they have the best defense in the NFL. The problem is if Jimmy Garoppolo can play well, and I'm not quite sure. But if the 49ers get a B- performance out of Garoppolo every game, I think the 49ers can win the Super Bowl. It's just a matter of Garoppolo not playing like he did against Seattle on Monday night. Because if he plays like that, the 49ers are not going to go anywhere. And then
but that's not his standard game. I mean, I don't think he was on his game.
No, he wasn't, and they lost Emmanuel Sanders to injury, and they already didn't have George Kittle, so they were down two of their top weapons. So I think I wouldn't judge Garoppolo in that game. So I want to see how he performs this week against Green Bay. I think that'll be interesting.
I still think he's trash, and we'll see about that top defense Sunday night.
We will. It'll be a great game.
They haven't played anybody, but they're playing somebody Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, they destroyed Carolina. Like it wasn't even close, that game. So I think that the 49ers, that they've killed most of the opponents they played this year. So I think there's something to be said for that. Lately they haven't, but they haven't had their top weapons. So I think if they get everyone back, I believe they'll beat the Packers. But if they're missing players, then I think the Packers will win. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on the injury report. And I would say Seattle is the other team that's going to make the playoffs in the NFC West. I'm not crazy about their defense. I don't like their offensive line, but Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and you can't ever count him out. He's almost. I've called him and Pete Carroll sort of like the Brady and Belichick, very very poor man's Brady and Belichick of the NFC, because despite their roster problems, they always seem to get to the playoffs because they're so great, especially Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing. They know how to handle the stress when things get stressful. They know how to deal with it.
Yeah, and Wilson will always win in the clutch. In the AFC, I mean, obviously the Patriots are going to win the division, and they're always going to be in the mix to win the Super Bowl. And the Bills are 7-3, I believe. But they, I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. They have such a tough stretch coming up. They have after this week, they have to play Dallas, then Baltimore, then Pittsburgh, and then New England, I believe. So it's those look like 4 losses to me. So in the AFC North, Baltimore is running away with the division. I think that they might be the best team in the NFL right now. In the AFC South, it'll depend on who wins this game on Thursday. The Colts versus the Texans. I think the Colts have the better roster, but the Texans have the better quarterback. So I would favor the Colts right now, but it wouldn't surprise me if Watson had a great game and led his team to victory. In the AFC West, the Chiefs, you have the Chiefs and the Raiders. I think the Chiefs will play better. They've had only 2 games, I believe, where Mahomes and Tyreek Hill have been on the field the entire game. So I think there's definitely upside there. And their defense, while it's weak against the run, they have some playmakers who can make turnovers. So there's something to be said for that. And then you have the Raiders, who are an upstart, 6-4. I hate their defense, but they have a great offensive coaching staff. And they have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and they have a great running game. So they'll be in
Mike Mayock hitting all those picks too.
Sorry?
Mike Mayock also hit on all those picks they got.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, not just the first rounders. He had 3 first-round picks, and he did well with those. But he had, I believe, a 4th rounder with Max Crosby, who he just won
4 sacks.
Yeah, he just
4
won
sacks Sunday.
Yeah, he just won AFC Defensive Player of the Week. He's been outstanding, absolutely great. And then their 2nd-round pick, cornerback Travion Mullen from Clemson, he's done very well as well. So the Raiders, they have some good talent. I just think their defense is bad, and I don't trust Derek Carr, but they have a great offensive coaching staff for sure.
Well said.
Yeah. All right. Do you guys want to go to questions? Are there any questions?
Let's go to our halftime questions. And does anyone have any questions? Is anyone, Ron, do you have any questions?
No, he's already answered all my questions. Basically, as a Texan fan, it comes down to the Thursday night game.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I agree with him. Baltimore could be, at this exact point in time, the best team, but we know New England always gets it in gear for the playoffs, the big game. So,
yeah, that's what I'll say about the Patriots. Is I think at this very moment, I would say the Ravens are better than the Patriots. But is that going to be the case in Week 16 onward when Bill Belichick figures something out and Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels improve offensively and that they find some new wrinkles to expose teams with? Yeah, I think the Patriots' upside is just through the roof. They always outsmart their opponents, and they get better down the stretch. If you remember, at this time last year, the Patriots lost at Tennessee and they lost at Miami, and people were doubting them, and they eventually figured things out, and they won the Super Bowl. So it can't surprise anyone if that happens again this year.
But didn't the Patriots actually add to their roster in the offseason? I seem to remember a couple of big signings that were pretty good for them.
Yeah, well, in Week 2, they signed Antonio Brown. That didn't really work out.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
No, it wasn't very good. They lost some players. They lost their left tackle Trent Brown to the Raiders, and they had a replacement. The reason they let Brown go is because they had a replacement in Isaiah Wynn, who was a 1st-round pick in 2018. But Wynn hasn't played very much this year. But he's actually coming back. He was just activated from the injury report. So he's going to play for the first time since September. I don't know if he's going to play this week, but he'll be back soon, and that'll give the Patriots a boost on offense. And they also lost their top pass rusher from last year, Trey Flowers, who went to the Lions. And I thought that I thought that they were going to struggle with their pass rush this year, but they drafted very well, which can't surprise anyone. And they have some new players who can get to the quarterback, and their defense has been outstanding, especially against the pass.
Their 1st-round draft choice is a pretty good sleeper Sunday because Sanu is trending towards being out, and Dorsett maybe as well.
Yeah,
so,
N'Keal Harry from Arizona State. I think that's a decent option. The Cowboys have one very good corner in Byron Jones, but outside of that, they don't really have the best secondary. So,
right.
I think that's a decent option. So, is that a question?
How about the Giants? How about Daniel Jones?
From a new audience member, Catman Dude is asking, how about the Giants? Would you pick anyone from there for the DraftKings?
Yeah, there are 2 people I like on DraftKings, and I'm going to let me just go to my core players. So this list right here, Week 12, is players I like for the this week on DraftKings. So there are 2 players I like on DraftKings for the Giants. Saquon Barkley is 7,900. is I think he's very underpriced for his talent level. The last time we saw Barkley, he ran for just 1 yard against the Jets. So people are down on him. The price is lower. I think people will be hesitant to play him, but especially if they see the Bears as an opponent, because the Bears are known as a good defensive team. But the Bears have been very poor against the run ever since they lost Akeem Hicks to injury. We saw Sunday night Todd Gurley, who has just been very lackluster overall. He had a great game. He almost rushed for 100 yards, even though he didn't have a great workload. So I think Barkley, hearing about his one rushing yard performance all like for 2 weeks and having the week off to get healthier, I think that provides great upside. And Barkley can easily be the top performer any week on DraftKings because of his talent level. So I would definitely play Barkley at 7,900. The other giant is Golden Tate at 5,700. I think it's a very good price for him. The Bears lost Bryce Callahan this offseason. He was their slot cornerback. He was a very good player, and he went to Denver. So they don't have a good slot cornerback to cover Golden Tate. So I think Golden Tate at 5,700 is an outstanding play. So those are the two. I think the only two giants I would play this week.
Okay.
Anything else?
Anyone else have any questions? For all you new guests, we have question time. You can chat your questions in. If you have any questions now, after this question time, we move on to the top 10 picks, Walter.com's top 10 picks, and then we'll have time for questions then. So I guess we're ready to go.
Yeah,
so you don't like Darius Slay in that game with the tight end being out?
No, the Bears have good outside cornerbacks. They struggle in the slot because they have Buster Screen, who's a very poor corner. But their outside cornerbacks are still outstanding. So we saw the Rams struggle to pass against the Bears, and I think the same thing will happen. And plus, I don't really have that much faith in Daniel Jones having a great game this week. The Bears still put a good pressure on the quarterback, and Daniel Jones is someone who fumbles a lot in the pocket. So I don't want anyone in the Giants passing game except for Golden State because of his matchup against Screen. So the real quick, these are the core players I like on DraftKings. The way I do my lineups in Fantasy Cruncher is I can make sure that I have at least three of these guys in every single lineup I do.
Hold on just 1 minute. We got a question from a new member, Rod. Question relating to defenses: is it better to play a good defense against a tough opponent, or a mediocre, bad defense against an easy opponent? I have Buffalo D and picked up Philly as their schedules link up, but not sure if I could be using Philly as a Buffalo. Thank you.
So Buffalo's a good defense too. So it's not like you're playing a bad defense. So I would usually prefer I would tier it like a great defense I would play no matter what, and then I would play bad to mediocre defense with a great matchup, and then I would play a good defense, and then I would play a bad defense with a mediocre matchup. I think that way. So if you have a great defense, like if you have the 49ers. Or the Patriots, I would play them no matter what. But if you have the Eagles, I wouldn't say they're a great defense. They're very good. They're not in the top tier. They're probably second tier. So I would play Buffalo over the Eagles this week. So that's how I would do it. I assume you mean on in year long, not DFS. On DraftKings, it's different. DraftKings, you want to have as much exposure to as many defenses as possible because there's so much variance with the defenses on DraftKings.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Rod?
Yeah. I would say very.
Sorry, I'm new to this. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. Yes, year long. All right. So
yeah, it was with regards to year long. I was just kind of curious because Buffalo's schedule gets really tough, kind of closer to the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, we just talked about how difficult Buffalo's defense or Buffalo's schedule is going to be after this week. So, yeah, the thing is with the Buffalo, I wouldn't say they're an elite defense either. They they're very good against the pass, but they've been very leaky against the run. And I think they benefited from playing such an easy schedule. So I think their the rankings are a little inflated. So I think this is the last week you can probably use Buffalo until I guess week 17 when they play the Jets again. But or obviously in week 17 you're probably not even playing at that point. So yeah, I think you're probably done with Buffalo. I can't imagine using them against Dallas. Like Dallas doesn't turn the ball over, and then you have to play against Baltimore, like Lamar Jackson. Like he's not going to make any mistakes, and you can play them against the Steelers. You know, Mason Rudolph, but even Mason Rudolph doesn't have a high interception percentage. He just dinks and dunks the entire time. So even that's not a great matchup. And then you have New England in Week 16, so you obviously don't want to use them against Tom Brady. So yeah, this is the last week you could probably use Buffalo's defense. So I mean, if you have the Eagles, you can use them next week. I know they play Miami, so that's a great matchup.
All right.
That's great. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a
very
lot.
much.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Yes. All right. So let's get on with our top 10.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to the quarterbacks first. So as I mentioned, Lamar Jackson, he's the top play this week. He plays Monday night, so he's not on the main slate. Actually, the top two quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson plays Thursday, so they're both not on the main slate on DraftKings. But I think they are the top fantasy options this week. I talked about how Houston struggles with good pass rushes, but the last time Watson played Indianapolis, he threw for 300 yards. And Indianapolis' secondary is not very good, and they might be down one of their top cornerbacks in Pierre Desir. I think he's questionable right now. So if that's the case, Watson's a great play. Number 3, Tom Brady against the Cowboys. Dallas's pass defense is not very good, and I think this is a good spot for Tom Brady to get going. Despite what he did against the Eagles, he struggled against the Eagles, but the Eagles bring lots of pressure, and Dallas not so much, especially if DeMarcus Lawrence is banged up. Number 4, Drew Brees against the Panthers. The Panthers, they have a good secondary, but I think Drew Brees at home is going to be in a good spot. Number 5, Russell Wilson against the Eagles. I'm not crazy about it. The Eagles secondary has improved a little bit, so we'll see about Tyler Lockett's status. He's questionable right now, or considered questionable. He didn't practice Wednesday. If Lockett's in, Wilson's definitely a top 5 option. And he's going to pick up a lot of rushing yards. So as you can see, 50 projected rushing yards for Wilson. Number 6, Baker Mayfield is kind of like the first streamer I have on here. He should be available in some leagues. I actually picked them up in a couple leagues I'm in. Against the Dolphins, who they really struggle. Their top cornerback's injured. Their top safety's injured. They're a horrible team. And we just saw Josh Allen throw all over them. And I know Mayfield's had his struggles, but he's played a little bit better ever since Kareem Hunt got back from injury. So I like Mayfield this week. Number 7, Matt Ryan, who might be a little bit lower than some people have because of the matchup against Tampa Bay. The problem I have with Matt Ryan is that I think there's a good chance that Atlanta will have such a big lead that they'll sit on the ball in the second half and they won't have to throw very much. So that's the only issue. And Matt Ryan has gotten most of his production this year in garbage time. So that's almost certainly not going to happen this week. So I'm a little lower on Matt Ryan than most, but I still like him. Number 8, Sam Darnold against the Raiders, who have a very poor secondary. They're down 2 starters. Ryan Finley had a good matchup against the Raiders this past week. He couldn't take advantage of it because he's not very good. Sam Darnold has picked up his play. He's not seeing ghosts anymore. He's played very well the past 2 weeks, and I think that's going to continue. Number 9, Jimmy Garoppolo. The Packers have blown lots of coverages. So if this is contingent on Garoppolo having George Kittle and Emmanuel Sanders. If that's the case, I like Garoppolo a lot. If he's down those guys, then I'm going to drop him in my rankings. And then number 10, Dak Prescott against the Patriots. It's a tough matchup, but I think this might be a situation where Dallas is trailing and they may need to throw a lot. And we haven't really seen that out of Dallas outside of a few games. You know, the Packers game where they threw a lot and Dak had a monster fantasy performance. So that could be the case this week. And it seems like most of his players are healthy. Amari Cooper is a little banged up, but he should play. So I like Prescott. So Michael, any thoughts on the top 10 quarterbacks?
Yeah, I disagree with Brady and Garoppolo. The Cowboys have been bringing terrific pressure ever since Michael Bennett's been there, and from the reports I've read, though, everyone in the line will be playing. And the Packers bring pressure tremendously. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, we're going to find out who he is on Sunday. I love, well, the top two are obvious. Wait a second. You're okay. Yeah, you got the top two.
I scroll down a little bit. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I love both Bradford and um, uh, um, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's been playing very well, and he's got a very easy schedule the rest of the way. And Darnold's got some good matchups too. So I think that draft class is going to finally show itself this week.
Yeah. No, the reason I like Brady is because Dallas is worse against the pass than the run. It sounds like DeMarcus Lawrence will play. And Dallas has brought more pressure, but I think with the Patriots maybe getting Isaiah Wynn back from injury, their pass protection might be better. And
who's Tommy going to have to throw to? He's got a rookie that's played one game.
Well, he always has Julian Edelman and James White, and the first time he won the Super Bowl was with David Patton and Troy Brown as his receivers. Yeah. So he's and he turned Deion Branch into a Super Bowl MVP. So
James White against the Falcons in the Super Bowl. My God.
Yeah, they're just coached better than anyone, and this might be the biggest coaching mismatch of the week. Bill Belichick versus Jason Garrett. Actually, it's usually Belichick versus anyone, but especially this week.
It's Jerry Jones.
Right. So I just think it's a colossal coaching mismatch, and I think the Patriots will figure something out. They're at home, and they tend to play better at home, and also it's a national spotlight game, so I think Brady might be geared up for it. So. You could be right. Maybe Brady underperforms. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The running backs. So Alvin Kamara is my top running back. Kamara hasn't been healthy for most of the year, and he finally snapped out of it last week against the Buccaneers. He had a huge game. He caught 10 passes, and that was a tough matchup. And this is a much easier matchup. Carolina is very weak to the run. Ever since they lost K'Wan Short, they've been very weak against the run. So Kamara, I think, is the top option this week, and he's cheaper than Christian McCaffrey. He's number 2. He's cheaper than McCaffrey on DraftKings, so I'll be playing a lot of Kamara. I still like McCaffrey a ton. Saquon Barkley, I talked about him. I think he has a great game against the Bears to rebound. Nick Chubb against the Dolphins. He's sharing touches now with Kareem Hunt. The thing is, Kareem Hunt is operating as the third down back. Nick Chubb's still getting tons of carries, and Miami's defense is terrible. So I think Chubb could have a good game. He hasn't played well the past couple of weeks. I think he's been a little banged up, but he's had 9 weeks to come off the injuries. So I think he's going to rebound. Number 5, Ezekiel Elliott against the Patriots. So the Patriots haven't played the run as well as the pass, and I think Elliott, it was kind of questioned this week by the media, talking about his struggles a little bit. So I think he's going to be more motivated to show out. So I like Elliott this week.
Number 6, when you're carrying all that money.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Number 6, Aaron Jones against the 49ers defense. The 49ers are a run funnel defense. So I think Jones could have a good game. And we've seen him be a big part of the passing attack as well. So hard not to like him. Number 7, Derrick Henry against the Jaguars. We just saw the Colts have 2 running backs rush for 100 yards against the Jaguars. So if Jonathan Williams can run for 100 yards against the Jaguars in like a half of action, just imagine what Derrick Henry is going to do. So Henry, you can make an argument that he should be higher than this.
Yeah, number 1.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. The thing is with Henry, this is PPR rankings. So Henry doesn't have the pass catching upside. As you can see in this column, this is receptions. He only has 1 projected reception, whereas everyone else has 4 or more except for Nick Chubb. So is PPR in PPR, he's not as great. In standard, he's one of the top running backs. In fact, he's tied for first in standard. As I think you can see, he's tied for first with Chubb and Kamara in standard scoring. But we're focusing on PPR. That's what DraftKings is. Number 8, Philip Lindsay against Buffalo. So Denver finally decided to have Philip Lindsay featured as their primary ball carrier, and they were rewarded. He had a good game against the Vikings defense that's good against the run. Now he's playing a Buffalo defense that's been very leaky against the run. So I like Lindsay a lot this week. I think he's a top play. He's only 5,200, I believe, on DraftKings, or 5,300. So he's going to be in a lot of my lineups. Number 9, Leonard Fournette against the Titans. it's not a great matchup. The Titans are good against the run. The thing was, Fournette is such a big part of the passing game. So in PPR, that helps him a lot. And then number 10, Le'Veon Bell. It's the same thing, the same exact thing as Fournette. Not a good matchup. The Raiders are good against the run, but Bell is going to catch 3 to 6 passes, and he's going to be a big part of the passing game. So those are my top 10 running backs. Michael, what do you think about this?
Well, I don't know what's going on with Zeke, and I love Derrick Henry. Love Derrick Henry this week. Country strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Elliott struggled, but he's so talented. It's kind of like, remember earlier in the year when Mike Evans was struggling and people were panicking? They're like, oh, no, like what's going to happen with Evans? Like, he's not doing anything. And then Evans breaks out and has a great game. And I think the same thing could happen with Elliott. He's just so talented not to do well.
Well, Evans, a lot of us, I think, might be the quarterback. But Elliott, it's like since he got paid, it's like he's still at Cabo.
Yeah, maybe. That is true. I mean, he did not practice with the team in the offseason, so that could be the case. But I'm still willing to bet on his talent. I think he's going to have some big games down the stretch. I could be wrong, but I'm always going to bet on talent over recent production.
I didn't like how he called out the coaches at Ohio State. Maybe he was right, but he's had some character issues all along. I mean, just bad decisions, and getting all that money doesn't make a guy better. It almost always makes him worse.
No, I completely agree, for sure. Before we move on to receivers, one guy I wanted to highlight is Benny Snell. He might be back this week against Cincinnati. So I've been projected for 12 PPR points. No projected receptions. He's not a pass catching running back, but Benny Snell, it's a good matchup. And if James Conner's out, I think Snell could be a good play. I think he's only 4,300, if I'm not mistaken, on DraftKings, and that's a fantastic play if Connor's out. So
another guy I like this week, except for the matchup, is Jordan Wilkins. He is projected to play, and he's the backbone in Indianapolis right now.
Yeah, we think so. We think Jordan Wilkins is going to start, but Jonathan Williams ran for 100 yards against the Jaguars, so. I think we might see a timeshare, so I'm not going to be eager to start any Indianapolis running back, especially given that Houston's very good against the run. So that's just a situation I'm going to avoid. Obviously, if you're playing on DraftKings, it's a one-game slate.
Yeah, I'm talking about year long.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't play the Colts running backs this week. Just because we don't know what's going to happen. All right, that's receivers. Michael Thomas, I think he's the de facto number one receiver every week. He's a monster. He's on pace to break the receptions record for a season. He's unbelievable. Number 2, Julio Jones, great matchup against Tampa. Not crazy about Matt Ryan this week, just because I don't think the Falcons will need to throw very much in the second half. But Julio Jones should be able to have a great first half against a Tampa secondary that can't cover anyone. Number 3, DeAndre Hopkins against the Colts. I mentioned that the Colts might be without one of their top cornerbacks, so Hopkins should have a great game. Number 4, Julian Edelman. He's someone I love on DraftKings because he has a high floor and he has a high ceiling. Like his worst games are going to be 13, 14 DraftKings points, but he has potential to get 25 to 30 DraftKings points. And this looks like a great matchup against Dallas, a team that can't cover slot receivers that very well. Number 5, Odell Beckham. So this is another case where I'm betting on talent. Beckham has struggled this year outside of the Jets game in week 2. He hasn't played that well, but I just think this is such a good matchup. Miami secondary can't cover anyone. And I think this might be a situation where the Browns, who are 11-point favorites, might be like, okay, let's get Odell going. Let's kind of showcase him against the worst team in the league. So I think that Beckham is in a smash spot. I love Beckham this week. Number 6, DJ Chark against the Titans. Tennessee's pass defense is not very good, and Chark has been a monster with Gardner Minshew. Yeah. I was a little worried last week that he might not have the same rapport with Nick Foles, and those concerns were just kind of stupid on my part because Chark scored 2 touchdowns. He looked great. And the fact that Nick Foles doesn't run nearly as much as Minshew helps the receivers out because they're going to get more targets. So Chark, he's a top 10 receiver from this point on, I think, unless he has a very difficult matchup. Number 7, Allen Robinson. He didn't do anything Sunday night because he was blanketed by Jalen Ramsey. The Giants don't have anyone resembling Jalen Ramsey. Even if they double team Allen Robinson, he can still have a good game. So I like Robinson. Number 8, T.Y. Hilton. This obviously is contingent on him playing. We don't know his status yet. But if he does play, we've seen Houston's secondary surrender big games to any receiver they played. So it's a great matchup. I hope he plays, but we don't know yet. Number 9, Calvin Ridley. Again, it's a good matchup against Tampa. Austin Hooper's out for Atlanta. It sounds like Devontae Freeman might be out as well. Those two guys are out. That just means Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley are going to see more targets. So, and then you have number 10, another injured player, Tyler Lockett. The Eagles secondary has improved ever since they got Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills back from injury, but they still don't defend slot receivers well. And Tyler Lockett is, along with Julian Edelman, the best slot receiver in the NFL. So Lockett is a very good matchup. He's always going to be a top 10 receiver, but he didn't practice Wednesday, so you need to pay attention to the injury report. So, and then I should say add Devontae Adams is 11, even though he is a very difficult matchup. I think you have to go with talent over matchup. So
Absolutely, he's going to blow up.
All right, yeah, Michael. Outside of Adams, what do you think about the top 10?
Nick Foles scares me, but you're right. And even if they get behind, he'll get points in garbage time. Chark is the real deal. So I guess I have to agree with just about everything you said, except I would put Adams higher.
That's fair. That's just the matchup thing, but I think there's definitely a non-zero chance that Adams is a top 3 fantasy receiver this week.
Yeah, that's a home game for Aaron Rodgers, and he likes to show off in San Francisco.
That is true. Hopefully, it goes better than the last time he went to California. We saw them struggle against the Chargers. Yeah,
Hope they learned their lesson.
That was pretty bad. I will say that you talked about how the Jaguars might be behind, and that's definitely a legitimate concern for Jacksonville this week against Tennessee. The Titans are playing at home, and it's a revenge game for them. So if you're on DraftKings, I think something good that you can do that has good positive correlation is to pair DJ Chark with Derrick Henry. So in that scenario, Tennessee is going to be ahead, which means they're going to run with Henry. And if the Jaguars are behind, they're going to have to throw a lot, which means DJ Chark will get lots of receiving yardage. So
very good, Kim. Bet it up, Kim.
Yeah, those two work very well together this week. So I would correlate them as much as possible. And I love both plays, so it works out.
That's brilliant advice. Yeah, you're going to win like $8,000 at least this week, Walter.
I hope so. That'd be nice. All right, the top tight ends. So this is tough because we don't know if George Kittle is going to play. If he does, he's number 1 against a Packer defense that doesn't defend tight ends well. He's with Travis Kelce on a bye, George Kittle is just the top option. It just depends if he plays or not. Number 2, Darren Waller against the Jets. The Jets linebackers are decimated. Linebacking core, I should say, is decimated with injuries. So Waller's in a smash spot. Number 3, Zach Ertz is another guy people were panicking about a few weeks ago. Ertz wasn't doing anything. I had someone, one of my friends said that his dad said that he would trade Zach Ertz for Jimmy Graham right now, which I thought was insane. But Ertz has been great the past few weeks, so he's a top option. Number 4, Vance McDonald is someone people might not have on the radar. Vance McDonald ran more routes than any other Steeler last week. So we had Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson get injured. I would imagine Smith-Schuster is going to be out. Johnson has a better chance of playing, so we'll see. But with at least one receiver out, that means McDonald's going to get more targets. So I like McDonald, especially against the Cincinnati defense that gives a 34% boost to tight ends. So they have the worst linebacking core in the NFL. And I would start any tight end you can find against Cincinnati. Number 5, Ryan Griffin. He's really come on. He's catching a lot of touchdowns. It's because Sam Darnold just doesn't have the great receiving talent. There's Robbie Anderson and Jamison Crowder, and that's it. So he's starting over the middle of the field a lot, and Oakland's linebacking core is not very good. So I like Griffin this week. Number 6.
I loved him in college, and it's about time that he started to progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 6, T.J. Hawkinson. This is another matchup spot against the Redskins, who don't defend tight ends well. Hawkinson has been very up and down this year. As he's a rookie, so you're going to expect that. But he is a good matchup this week, so he's a nice option. Number 7, Mark Andrews against the Rams. This is just Lamar Jackson loves throwing to Mark Andrews. It's not a good matchup, but he's going to target him a lot, and Andrews should produce unless he drops a lot of passes. Number 8, Darren Fells, the Texans tight end against the Colts. So the Colts play zone defense, so they're going to allow a lot of stuff over the middle of the field. And I imagine that Deshaun Watson, if he's under pressure a lot, he's going to throw to Fells, maybe the other tight end, Jordan Akins. So if you're playing on DraftKings, I would definitely play Fells, and probably not both, but I would play Fells or Akins in probably every lineup I do Thursday night. Number 9, Dallas Goedert. He's catching a lot of touchdowns. Seattle doesn't defend tight ends all that well, so I'm always down to play Goddard, and he's cheap on DraftKings. And then number 10, Greg Olsen. The same type of great defense, but they're weak against tight ends. So we just saw Cameron Brate go off against them. O.J. Howard probably would have had that production if he didn't think he was part of the Harlem Globetrotters and he tried to catch a pass behind his back, which is ridiculous. So we just saw Brate go off. So I think Greg Olsen could have a good game. So
sounds like the guy who ducked.
that
catch the ball.
that was the opposite of the Harlem Globetrotters.
Right.
It's like the Washington Generals, like just not tucking out of the way. So those are the top 10 tight ends. Michael, what do you think about them?
We lost Michael.
Oh yeah, we lost Michael. So I'll pretend to be Michael. I'll be like, "Good job, Walt. I like those tight ends." Just kidding. Michael, what do you think? You're back.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, well, I guess you're thinking Devlin Hodges is going to play since you're picking Vance McDonald.
No, I don't know if you heard, but Vance McDonald ran the most routes.
I heard you.
Oh yeah,
But still, you have a better chance with Devlin Hodges. 2 guys I don't see. I like Delaney Walker first time with Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill's been fantastic this year. And if Delaney Walker plays, I like him.
Yeah.
Also like Ben Watson, because Tommy's got nobody else to throw to.
Yeah, Ben Watson I have for, I believe he's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. He could be higher for sure. The Cowboys are not good against tight ends.
Right.
Watson could go up these rankings.
It's been a big day.
I agree. Delaney Walker is a little bit lower because we don't know if he's going to play. So I like the matchup against Jacksonville's linebackers. So that's really dependent on his injury. I was curious, why do you think Vance McDonald's correlates with Devlin Hodges? Because I think he ran the most routes last week, and I think without the Steeler receivers being healthy, he should get plenty of targets.
I just don't have faith in Mason Rudolph and the way he instigated that thing with Myles Garrett. And at least he finally got a fine for it. But I think that pretty much distracted from his horrific performance.
Yeah, maybe that was the whole plan. He played so poorly, he wanted to make people forget about how bad he was. So
good job.
No, it was outstanding, and he got the best defensive lineman in that division suspended. So good job on Mason. Real quick,
but now Pouncey's out though, too.
Yeah, you know what? Pouncey is out, but I like the Steeler backup center, Finney. I think he's a good player. So I don't think it's that much of a downgrade. The Steelers are usually draft offensive linemen very well. Like I've noticed over the years when they've had an offensive lineman go down with an injury, there's usually not much of a drop off. I don't know what they see with these offensive linemen they draft, but they usually do a good job, and they're usually pretty deep on the offensive line. So I don't think the Pouncey injury is going to affect them very much.
Yeah, 8 seconds left in the game. He kicks the guy in the private parts and grabs the helmet of a defensive lineman with 8 seconds left, and he wondered what was going to happen.
Yeah. So I should ask you, because we didn't get to talk about it. Did you think that the Browns should have or the NFL should have suspended Garrett for the entire year for that?
They should, yeah, definitely. And I think even at least one game next year, maybe 4, just so they have the reminder you can't do that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I don't know how you can swing a helmet at someone's head. I would say Garrett is very lucky that Mason Rudolph didn't suffer brain damage or even worse.
Well, he's being sued too.
Yeah,
it could result in criminal charges.
Yeah, I saw that as well. But imagine what would have happened if Mason Rudolph had a brain injury and just kind of would be comatose
Yeah.
right now. Like
Yeah.
Myles Garrett would never play in the NFL again if that were to happen. He's very lucky it wasn't worse for him. As bad as it might be right now, it was a bad situation. I agree with the suspension. He's a first time offender, so I think they might let him play at the beginning of next year. But I think you might be right where they might give him 4 games or so.
And which incident was this? Because I cut somebody last week because they were, bad sportsmanship, and I didn't like them. So who is what happened here?
Oh, the very end of the Thursday night game last week with the Browns versus the Steelers. Myles Garrett, the defensive end for the Browns, hit Mason Rudolph late, the quarterback of the Steelers. He hit him late. Mason Rudolph didn't like it. He tried to rip off Myles Garrett's helmet. He wasn't very successful. He almost got there. He wasn't successful. Then Myles Garrett ripped off Mason Rudolph's helmet, and he held his helmet in his hand, and he bashed the helmet on Mason Rudolph's head. So it was a very ugly incident. I was shocked.
That's the one I cut because of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. With 8 seconds left in the game, all that happened. The game was over.
I was like, oh heck no! I remember, Michael. I told you I don't like this guy. How do I cut him? Well, Michael was telling me the story too, and I'm like, I need to get rid of him. I don't like ethics like that. So, yeah.
Well, he's not going to play anyway.
He's a football player, but his arrogance is getting the best of him.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I can understand that because, I think there are 2 camps. Like some people don't care what their player's done. They just want to win in fantasy. But there are some people who might be like, I'm doing this for fun. I don't want to root for a bad guy. So I can understand that. I was in a league one year back in 2010 when Michael Vick was reinstated. And I was drafting at a friend's house. And he's still living with his mom, so he was like in his late teens, early 20s back then. So his mom came in before we started drafting and said, "If anyone drafts Michael Vick, you're kicked out of this house." So I thought that was funny. So
go on. I think there, the ethics get so lost in the game, and I really lost a lot of faith in football, but I like to play this way because I can cut my players, and that's the part I enjoy. I do want to win, and I think I need to reevaluate that, but I don't think, I think the league takes care of that too, right? They generally suspend the players and stuff like that. So,
for the most part, they tried to get away with not suspending Ray Rice. It was a few years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it'll happen. I don't really trust Roger Goodell, which is why I wrote about it in the book, which is why we've been banned from the combine. But
that's it. When I first read the first part of your book, I go, can I fast forward to where that part happened?
Yeah, you can't be critical of the GM, or else you can't go to NFL events apparently. So,
league depends on how much the public pressure is. Yeah, I mean, but Walter got banned for saying something that But you know what, Walter? What I enjoy is the fact that you're blunt and truthful about it. You're upfront. There's no whole, there's no reason to sugarcoat it. There's not. I mean, it is the way it is. A lot of times the game gets dirty. A lot of time there's a dirt in the game, and you tell it like it is, just like you say. The Dolphins are the worst football team in the league. I've enjoyed the book, by the way, everyone. A Safety and a Field Goal. I have to say it's taken me longer to read this book than I've probably ever read a book in my life, because I start laughing so hard I can't breathe. Walter has the humor unlike anything I know, but he says what I would think, and I think that's what's funnier is he's not afraid to say it. So if you want something to learn about fantasy football and have a good laugh, I recommend the book. And thank you, Walter, for writing that book. and
Thanks for reading it. I really appreciate you saying that, and thank you.
no, it's I think it's hilarious. I mean, it's entertaining. I haven't enjoyed it, but I haven't. My husband's like, "What are you reading over there? I haven't seen you laugh that hard in years." And I mean, because I read books to interview people with. That's part of my homework for my other TV show, and so I'm constantly just writing notes and reading books. I'm writing notes with yours, but I'm laughing all the time. So
Read the book on Amazon, right, Walter?
Yeah, on Amazon, you can. It's called A Safety and a Field Goal. It's on Amazon, so yeah, you can find it there.
and I've got it advertised at the end of the show, and we're going to put it up on IBM as well. So,
Cleveland was playing like Greg Williams was still coaching there. They took a lot of cheap shots early in that game that set the tone for the game, knocking out Juju and Deontay.
Yeah, that was an ugly game. There first of all, there were so many injuries, which tend to happen on Thursday night. That's actually something I wrote about in my book as well. How many injuries there are Thursday night compared to other games. But there were some very like horrible cheap shots. You're right. Yeah. You're right, Michael. It was an ugly game overall, and it ended even worse. So
yeah, yeah, it sure did.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I know we need to wrap up here soon. I want to tell everyone that if you want to, try your hand at fantasy football, go to walterfootball.com and check out his fantasy game. It's a lot of fun to play. You get to do your picks. It's real easy to use, and a chance to win $150, and it's free.
Yeah. So, thanks. Yeah, the link is on the homepage. You can see it says free DFS contest. So if you don't want to join DraftKings, or if you're a little timid about it and because you don't have the experience, you can try our contest for free. There's no risk involved, and you can win $150. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, give it a shot, and thank you, Walter, for doing that.
We still have a couple of spots open with playoff teams from the Brothers Collusion incident too. So if you leave your email address, I'll send you an invite. If you want a playoff team in a keeper league with IDPs.
And I have to say, I'm enjoying my league with Mike. It's been a challenge for me because it's a huge learning curve. Mike's been extremely patient with me. Because I have a tendency of when he says bench somebody and I can't bench him, I cut him. But it's quite interesting to learn how to be an owner of your own team. So I recommend people trying it, and it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, it is.
Sounds good. So any questions before we move on or get out of here?
I don't see any questions. I think everyone seems to have gotten some answers from our last round of talk here. So
okay, yeah, sounds good. So that's it for week 12. You can go to walterfootball.com. We have updated fantasy rankings for all the injury reports. Especially on the weekend when the Friday injury report is the most important one. It's the final one. So our rankings are updated every single day. So check those out. We're going to have sample lineups for DraftKings. So if you want to get started on DraftKings, you can look at my lineup, maybe make some adjustments to something you don't agree with. But yeah, otherwise, let us know who you're picking in fantasy this week. Who are your DraftKings picks? Did you disagree with any of our top rankings? And if so, who would you put in the top 10? Let us know. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys next week.
That's right.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone. Love you guys.
Thanks, Walter.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. All right.
It's valuable advice you shouldn't have given away, man. We should share that privately. This is anybody who's involved in daily. If they aren't listening to Walter, then they're really missing out. And it's an honor to work with you guys. It's a lot of fun.
I am just having the time of my life, and I need to listen more, and I am. But I also, I'm going to text you before I make my notes. Get the captain right this time. But no, this is a lot of fun, and I've learned so much. And thank you for explaining how all of that works
Yeah, yeah.
and even though I didn't win anything, I felt like I gained so much just in
Yeah.
understanding what's going on and what you guys are doing when you're watching football all day long. It's not just about the game,
It's
right?
compelling, dude.
Yeah,
It's theater. There's nothing like it.
so much analytics involved in
Yeah, yeah.
it is just mind-boggling but fun. But before we go, I want to thank our viewers who dialed in and ask them if they have any questions or pointers, or if they, want to just say anything. I'll be more than happy to unmute anyone.
Give us your honest opinion of Walter's book after the flight.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna have to. Definitely, we'll do
Think how
that.
much smarter you're going to be after that.
Uh, One last question for me. This is from Luke.
Okay.
Let's see if we can pull this
Oh,
up.
yeah. Should he play Austin Hooper if Matt Schaub's playing? That's a great
Right.
question.
So should I still put Austin Hooper in my lineup even if his quarterback is injured and doesn't?
Matt Schaub. Matt
I'm
Schaub.
thinking about the starting Darren Waller ahead of him in that case. And yeah, I've had that written down here. So yeah.
I would play Waller over Hooper. I don't think Hooper's a bad play if Matt Schaub is starting because Schaub is going to have to throw shorter passes. But what you're going to give up with Schaub is potential touchdowns because they might have like one drive at the end or maybe two drives in the fourth quarter where they get toward the red zone.
Well, Schaub throw touchdowns for his team or the other team?
That's true. That's true. So Hooper, who I had at, he's number 2. If Matt Schaub starts, Hooper probably dropped to like number 10 around there. So I would have Waller ahead a little bit over Hooper. Again, like it's not a good matchup, but they use Waller as like a receiver sometimes. So it's not like they're just going to take away a tight end again. Like he's just so talented that. And he's their primary receiver, so I would start Waller over Hooper. But obviously you want to pay attention to the injury report. So
and pay close attention to that before the game, right?
yeah. I mean, even if you do, like with David Johnson, you never know what's going to happen. So it's always a risk, but usually the quarterback's not going to be sidelined after one play. Like that. I've never seen that happen before. That would be remarkable. But yeah, so if Matt Ryan is announced as playing, then fire Hooper up. If not, then I would start Waller. So that's what I think about that. But it'd still be close.
Yeah, that's
Brilliant, Walter, and thank you to our millions and millions of fans watching on IBM TV.
Well, thank you, Luke, for the great, wonderful questions and all the other people who dialed in. Wait, we got something else. That's a good.
Thank you, Luke. Yeah.
Thank you, Luke. We thoroughly enjoy the fact that you are dialing in, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's it for this week. You can go to walterfootball.com. I'm going to have updated fantasy rankings every single day. We have NFL picks, 2020 NFL mock draft. So lots of content. And the book, please, if you want to support the site, A Safety and a Field Goal, it's available on Amazon. Check that out if you can. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys next week. And for everyone listening, just what do you think? Who are you going to play in DraftKings? Who are you going to play in your year-long leagues? Just let us know. If you have any sleepers that we missed, for sure, let us know in the comments. And otherwise, I'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, you guys can always post on Facebook too, and Walter does answer those posts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you very much.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.